Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. So as I was hyping a little earlier in the week, I have been working on this little collaboration video with another YouTuber who goes by the name of ItsNket. So how this whole shebang works is that Nket and I decided that we each would go onto each other's channels and talk about 2 different builds while the host goes over 3 builds. We compare and go over some of our ideas as well as just generally react to the different ideas that we've had. So on this channel here, we've got my 3 builds and then Nket's 2 builds. And then I invite you after this video to go and check out Nket's channel where you'll see 3 of his builds and then 2 more of my builds. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
All right.
Yeah, it's I love how like this is the intro of like, how do we start this?
I don't know. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Skizballs and my best bud Frumpy Dumpkins. I don't know. That's
Welcome back to Build Busters, this series where we join together and make some of the dumbest builds this side of YouTube.
It's a bunch of like 2-second cuts with a bunch of like Mr. Beast-like sound effects.
Yeah, just like everything on the soundboard. Right, so I got my 3 builds.
So what you got for me? What's the first one?
I've created a build so lethal, so powerful, it might have the ability to derail both player and NPC alike.
That sounds good and bad.
Yes. So, Nket, what do you think stymies D&D players more than anything?
Scheduling.
The what?
Scheduling.
Oh, close. Honestly, if I had made a build where it's just like all of your schedules line up, that would be a video people would click.
Oh man. Yeah, it's just costs extra money in D&D Beyond.
Yeah, it's like we cracked the code. We did it, guys.
Yeah. All you gotta do is pay their rent, and they don't need to go to jobs anymore.
Yeah.
It's the sugar daddy build.
Oh, God. So anyways, scheduling, yes, that is something that definitely is a rather large difficulty when it comes to, D&D players and games itself. But I was going to say, doors.
Right.
You have those memes of people being like, oh, like we're fighting a dragon, like this is fine, but then like rolling to see if we can get past the door is then this borderline impossible task. Like seemingly the most mundane tasks are really hard for some reason.
Yeah, that's what I do if I haven't done enough prep for a session, is I just put a trap on the first door they come across, and then they're guaranteed to spend the next, 2 hours triple-checking every other door and hallway.
Well, what if I told you I figured out a build where you can turn every door and window into a wall? And it starts at level 1.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd be like the Roadrunner of D&D, just turning every tunnel into a cliff face so that the Wile E. Coyote just slams into it.
Oh yeah, it's like you just peel back the paper and it's like, nope, gotcha. So starting up this build at first level, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to play one of 2 races. You're going to either want to go Mark of Warding Dwarf or you're going to want to go Mammon Tiefling.
Ooh.
And the reason why you're going to want to go those, and why you want to do this as you level up, is that you get access to racial spells. And in this case, you get the spell Arcane Lock. And what this spell does is anytime you want to lock or really secure something, you basically cast Arcane Lock on it, and then it adds an additional +10 to any skill checks to open or rip apart that fixture, whether it be like a door or a window.
Oh, so when you're running away, you can be like, BAM! And then it locks behind you and keep hauling ass down the hallway.
Yes. And then on top of that, what's also really fun is the fact that if you actually Google locks, your average lock to open from what Wizards of the Coast has said within, their items your regular lock is going to be 15 to open a lock. Then with Arcane Lock, that turns it up to a 25. And then you have this lovely little feature that you can get started with at the beginning of the game. And this is also, I think, the first time I'm really bringing artisan's tools and like background tools into a build. I've gone over some specific backgrounds that you might want to take for a build, but I think this is the first time I've actually used tools from your background in a build. So what you're going to want to do is not just play a Mammon Tiefling or a Mark of Warding Dwarf, but you're also going to want to be a shipwright as your background. And the reason for this is that it...
Naturally.
Yes.
Of course.
You're a salty sea dwarf or a salty sea tiefling.
You're just really upset about everything.
Yeah. And then...
But you mean ocean salty.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry,
okay.
That was a horrible joke.
I mean, I don't know. If you were stuck out in the ocean for that long, I think you'd be pretty salty about being stuck on the ocean for that long, too. But so, the reason why shipwright is really important here is because it gives you easy access to carpenter's tools. And yes, there are definitely going to be other sorts of ways that you can get access to carpenter's tools, but this is really quick, really surefire way of just getting that really immediate access to it. Mm-hmm. And the reason why we want this, carpenter's tools have an ability. It has the trait Fortify. With 1 minute of work and raw materials, you can make a door or window harder to force open. Increase the DC needed to open it by 5.
Oh my god.
So, slamming Arcane Lock and then using Fortify on top of this, you can basically turn any regular lock into like this maximum security door.
Yeah, it's essentially Fort Knox.
And the fun part too is, as I was mentioning before with the Mammon Tiefling and the Warding Dwarf, the reason why those two races are really important here is because typically Arcane Lock has a material component, like a pretty expensive material component.
Oh, goddamn. Oh, wow. 25 gold per cast, basically. And so if you're a disgruntled shipwright little dwarf man, you can do this for free.
You're just that salty. You can just make locks hard to open. Yeah, it's a really good combo because you can basically bypass the cost. I mean, granted, you can only do this combo once a day.
But I mean, if you're trying to escape from something, or if you want to lock something away, or if you just want to bring your D&D session to a grinding halt.
I mean, like, let's say, for instance, you're in a location where it's not secure. You know that, like, people are probably going to be trying to, like, steal your stuff. Or just break into, like, a keep or whatever. Mm-hmm. This is a way to make it so, like, they're not getting in there.
Yeah, you know how, like, I mean, I do it all the time when I'm running a game where I'll tell players, like, oh, no, you can't take a long rest here. Like, you're in somebody's fortress. This is not a place that you could sort of tuck away for a few hours. But you're sort of making this character that at level 1... you can make a room just basically inaccessible to all but very strong NPCs.
There is a caveat, though. So it's not actually at level 1. The build starts at level 1 because you get access to the Fortify feature, which lets you add the +5. So technically, that would be a 20 DC, which still,
okay,
for a lot of people at level 1 is still really high. Mark of Warding Dwarves get the Arcane Lock feature at 3rd level, whereas Mammon Tieflings get it at 5th level.
Okay. And I just think dwarves are cooler, so I would definitely go dwarf here. I always pick the smaller races. I think that there's a lot more opportunity for shenanigans when you're playing like a dwarf or a halfling or something like that.
Mm-hmm. It's the fun size.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you're not short, you're fun sized.
Yeah, I love those characters.
Okay, well, I do hope you like this next character idea because this one is it also thrives in like the right situations, kind of like with this the previous build, the Doorman, as I've been referring to it.
The Doorman, I love it.
The Doorman. So this is a build that I like to refer to as the Siren. So,
Right.
Nket, I have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
Have you ever wanted a free ship?
I mean, it's not something that I've ever thought about before, but now that you say it, yeah. Yeah, no, I could go for a ship.
So, you have the lore of the Sirens, these very alluring sea maidens that, sing these calls to sailors, and then they jump in and drown.
So, you said the siren, and I'm a very dumb man. In my head, I thought of like the wee-oo siren, and
This is a...
I was like, oh, okay. First he made a door, now he's making an alarm. But no, it's the mythological siren.
I do have a thing for that, though. Like, if we want to go, like, ham with, like, the security systems, there's a whole other rabbit hole I can go for that.
You have a wee-oo siren built.
Kinda, I mean... I made a video about Magic Mouth a bit ago on the channel where I talked about how you can use it for, like, a security system. Like, I love utility spells so much. But yeah, okay, anyways, like, the actual siren build. Jesus.
Okay.
So.
The siren. Yeah, the siren.
How this build works is what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to play a Triton. Very much so in the theme of, the aquatic and the siren lore.
Mm-hmm.
So now, what you're going to want to do from this point is you're going to want to go Glamour Bard.
Right.
Glamour Bards get this feature called Enthralling Performance, where at 3rd level, you can make this performance where you can choose any number of humanoid creatures that saw your performance and force them to make a wisdom saving throw. Or you can force a number of creatures that saw your performance equal to your charisma modifier, and then force them to make a wisdom saving throw. And then if they fail, they're charmed by you. And while they're charmed, they'll defend you. They'll talk very highly of you, whatnot. But what gets really fun with this is when you take on level 6 and you get Mantle of Majesty. So what this does is it basically lets you turn yourself into a command cannon, as I've heard some people refer to it as. With the command cannon, you basically transform yourself, or as how the ability describes itself, into this like otherworldly sort of beauty. This fey magic that makes people, want to serve you. So as a bonus action on each of your turns, you can cast command without expending a spell slot. And however, if a creature is charmed by you, they automatically fail the saving throw against the command that you cast with the feature.
Huh.
So now...
Command is like a one-word thing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We get into that, trust me. So, let's say you're sitting on the rocks as a bunch of, foolhardy pirates and sailors go by, and you're like, that looks like a nice boat. You sing a little, you use your enthralling performance, and you sing for 1 minute.
It's not unusual to be loved by anyone.
You sing a little bit for him, and then you pop your Mantle of Majesty, and potentially, if it's a small enough boat, this might target the entire crew, or at least a large chunk of the crew. And then with all of them being charmed, all you have to do every turn is just give the command, swim.
Oh. That's dark. That is very, very dark.
I mean, if they can swim, it's not super dark. It depends on where they are, but I mean, sirens are usually pretty dark. I mean, there are very few tales of sirens being like, "Oh boy,
yeah.
friends." It's like, ugh.
Swim, and they just all do it. It affects all of them. Oh my god.
It would be once per turn. It's basically bonus action, swim, bonus action, swim, bonus action, swim,
yeah.
Or follow. Or something like that, where it's you're enticing, you as this siren character are enticing them into the water.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause that's the thing too. It's with command, you can't issue a command to a creature that is directly harmful to them.
Yeah. And swim isn't bad, right?
No, people swim all the time.
Who doesn't like to swim? You know, you're
They'll
helping
like
them
to
out.
swim
You're
for-
encouraging bathing in.
Yeah, they've been on, a boat for that long. They might need a little bath. It's just, yeah.
They're probably filthy.
Probably. They're sailors. If there are any sailors watching this video, I'm sure you bathe regularly. Please don't cancel me.
No, you don't. You're filthy and disgusting, and stay away from me.
Okay. What if all of our subscribers are like sailors, where they're just like on a boat watching our videos, and they're like, oh, and like a single tear rolls down all of their cheeks?
I don't even have 1,000 subs. If 700 sailors found me simultaneously, that would be incredible.
Somehow all on the
It
ocean.
just all drops to 0 overnight. I'm like, you're filthy and disgusting. Go fuck yourselves. And then, boom, they're gone. All right, does that build go anywhere else, the Siren, or is it just about stealing a boat?
It's just about... Okay, well...
I like it, though.
The original premise was like, yeah, you can steal a boat, but also, too, if you want to build like this, it's really good for...
Crowd control.
Like, yeah, it's really good for, like, aspects of crowd control. It can be really good for aspects of, like, role play and, like, subterfuge games where, like, this is, something that happens frequently. Because even, too, like, let's say, for instance, like, breaking down some parts of the build, you have enthralling performance. Let's say you're, like, at a local tavern where you know that, this noble is going to be staying pretty frequently. You can use your enthralling performance while you perform. It doesn't need to affect everyone in the crowd, but it only affects specific people that you choose.
Right. I like it.
And then all of a sudden, the noble just starts acting really weird as they're under your charm, and that can potentially change and alter a lot of the course of the campaign.
I like it. Okay, you want to see what I got for this first one?
Yeah. What you got?
Okay, so one of the worlds that I use in my server is steampunk, kind of Lovecraftian world, and so the first character I have built for that sort of follows along those lines, and it's based on the Big Daddies from the BioShock series. So it's really something that's going to take like a lot of levels to make sense. I think it'll take like at least 6 because you want to be barbarian and the new Unearthed Arcana Path of the Giants, as well as a cavalier fighter. And then the higher up you go with those, they're just going to continuously feed into each other, all the way up until level 20, where you basically, without even using Polearm Mastery and Polearm Master and Sentinel, you get the effect of Polearm Master and Sentinel with those 2 subclasses. The Path of the Giants Barbarian increases your size, because Big Daddies are like really, really super big. And the Cavalier Fighter is all about like defending other things. So Big Daddies are always protecting their little sisters. The only feat that I had listed on this as like really important is Charger, because I want to be able to like charge in there. But if you're using like a lance or a pike or something like that, a big 2-handed weapon that has reach on it, that barbarian subclass increases your reach by 5 and then 10 more feet as you level up. So you could eventually be a barbarian. If you chose like the Bugbear race, for example, you could be a barbarian with 25 feet of melee range, and you reduce enemy movement speed, your target's movement speed, to 0 when you hit them, and you get opportunity attacks whenever they move within your reach. So you're basically this big, like hulking, at least large, if not giant-sized creature, because it actually changes your creature size to large. You have fighters, so you can wear heavy armor. You have your giant 2-handed. I picked Lance because it, like with that drill arm thing, Lance kind of looks more like that in my head, I guess. It would just have to be flavored as like a drill. But you'd have this big drill, you'd have 25 feet of range. You can do an opportunity attack anytime something moves within that range. It doesn't even have to like move towards you or anything. It's just like, oh, is it moving within your fucking melee range? Then you can hit it and reduce its movement speed to 0. And they have disadvantage on attacks against anything that isn't you. So you're a big iron protecty barbarian rager fighter that can punch across the room.
Yeah, that's... So you said that's a 25-foot reach?
Yeah, because the reach on a pike is a base. It increases by 5 by default. And then Bugbear gets an additional 5 feet of melee reach. And the Barbarian subclass increases your reach by 5 feet at 2 different points. So like at level, I think it's 3 and 10 or 3 and 14, your reach goes up by 5 feet. So you eventually get an additional 10 feet just from your subclass, 5 feet from race, and 5 more from your weapon. So 25 total.
That's a 50-foot diameter. There are certain spells that have like a 25-foot radius, and people are like, "Whoa, that's a lot!" Like,
yeah,
like that's a large area of effect.
Yeah, and you're a raging barbarian with heavy armor. So it would take a lot of levels, because you do need the barbarian levels to get up there. And you don't necessarily need to put all 10 levels into the fighter to get the hold the line as the cavalier feature that comes in at level 10. You could just pick up Sentinel. You don't need Polearm Master, just Sentinel, and then that would stop them. But I like the idea of being like 10 and 10 in both by max level, or just maybe getting 3 in fighter, 3 or 4 in fighter, maybe for the feat. But definitely for the subclass, so that you get the unwavering mark, and then going super deep into barbarian. And in that giant subclass, even though stuff is thrown, it comes back to you. You can flavor your weapon with the barbarian subclass to make it do like an elemental damage with elemental cleaver. So because big daddies have like that sort of shocking lightning damage stuff, you could have your weapon deal lightning damage with an additional d6, and it changes any weapon into a thrown weapon as well. So in addition to having insane reach, you can throw your lance up to 60 feet.
That is... it's really cool, because I feel like with a lot of, like, melee builds, they're like, oh, like, ranged combat is going to be really hard, and it's like...
I mean, kind of, if you could stab somebody in the face from across the house. You don't need...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you are the house, but, like,
yeah.
It reminds me of, you ever see The Princess Bride?
Yes.
It's like, I just imagine, like, the interaction where it's like, oh, we're going to need some AoE. You are the AoE, like...
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty cool idea to have a steampunk themed dude. And Elemental Cleaver, it comes in at 6th level with Path of the Giant. You can throw a weapon and it reappears in your hand after it hits or misses a target. You could just have that for like steampunk feel, have it be attached to like a chain. So you're like throwing it and then just like winding it back up to come back in. Yeah. Big Daddy.
I like it. I don't know if the enemies will like it, but that is...
pretty brutal. It's a lot of reach.
Pretty brutal. That is a lot of reach. Oh my goodness.
Okay. So I got another one, if you're ready.
Okay.
Okay. So in addition to that steampunk world, the second world I made is for... just for some friends and I. We're going through... It's based on every 80s movie. 80s, like all the shitty science fiction and fantasy movies of the late 80s. I mean, I'm kind of old, but I grew up on these. So like Labyrinth and Masters of the Universe, Neverending Story, stuff like that. And so this world, for this character, I made one based on Jareth the Goblin King from Labyrinth. And for the race, I took Eladrin, because Jareth he moves around pretty gracefully, but he also kind of like disappears at times. So the Eladrin has that Fey Step. And they have some pretty cool additions to Fey Step for the autumn, winter, spring, and summer stuff that a few of them tie pretty well into Jareth's character in that movie, where You can charm with your phase step, or you can make them really afraid of you, or where Jareth kidnaps the kid Toby, you can actually just teleport somebody else with your phase step if you want. You can make that decision every single time you do a long rest. You can switch between those.
Yeah, my first immediate question when you're like, oh, I'm going to be playing the Goblin King, and I'm like, oh, is there going to be some sort of like, I have the ability to just whisk away
Yeah, man.
the youngins?
Yeah, dude. So, for a while, I was trying to get this get this build going with like different summon spells, because the Goblin King does have goblins, but all the summon spells are like, they're a little bit higher level, and they're all pretty expensive, and they're all, for the most part, concentration. And what Jareth was really more about was like just being really charming and wearing incredibly tight pants. So what I did instead was I just went with Warlock for a little bit. I took Hexblade for my patron there. And then for Pact Boon, to get that little buddy, I took Pact of the Chain
Ooh.
for 3rd level. But that gives you a familiar, except it's a little bit different. So you get like an imp, pseudo-dragon, a quasit, or a sprite for your familiar, so it isn't an animal. So you could have a little monstrous best pal following you around like Jareth's minions in the movie. For Eldritch Invocations, because of the Pact Boon for the Chain, I took Investment of the Chain Master. It just makes the follower a little bit stronger. It lets them be able to fly. You can get them to attack as a bonus action. Their weapons count as magic. The bigger thing there is that if something tries to kill it, something tries to attack it, you can use your reaction to give your familiar resistance to the type of damage it's taken. For the second Eldritch Invocation, it doesn't really matter, I guess. There's a whole bunch of things that you could do that would work within this thing, like Mask of Many Faces, lets you disguise self. Misty Visions lets you do silent image at will. Beguiling Influence gives you proficiency in deception and persuasion, which I think might be one of the better ones here, because the second class that you're going to take is Bard, going into College of Glamour. With College of Glamour, you can get expertise in those things that you got through that Eldritch Invocation. So you can get expertise in deception and persuasion, as well as picking up Jack of all trades and all those other Bard proficiencies and stuff you're going to get right off the bat. For Jareth, College of Glamour is kind of a no-brainer, right? Like, it's David fucking Bowie. He's enthralling performance and Mantle of Majesty and all the things that you get all the way down. It's like they designed this class off of David Bowie.
Like, even to the fact that, like we talked about College of Glamour, pretty earlier into this video as well. It's like, you have this feature where it's like, if you sing or like have some sort of performance, it charms nearby creatures, and the fact that like that is a large portion of the labyrinth is just David Bowie strutting around in impossibly tight pants, charming people and singing.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a great subclass to try and build a character based off of him. And the Warlock stuff is really just for that Pact of the Chain to have a little follower, and then some of the Warlock spells there. Even the if you're going with Warlock and the Hexblade there, you can touch one weapon so it's like a Hex Warrior. You can touch one weapon that you're proficient with that lacks a two-handed property, and when you attack with that weapon, you use Charisma instead of Strength or Dexterity for the attack and damage rolls. So that kind of allows you, in a way, to replace Eldritch Blast as a Warlock with a weapon attack, which would allow you, in turn, to like take more charm and sort of crowd control kind of spells from both of those class spell lists, and allow you to focus more on flavoring your character in a way that would let you sort of like control the field rather than dealing damage through magic. Because you don't really see Jareth. He's not hurling lightning bolts and stuff like that, right? He's walking around. He does the contact juggling with the cool ball thing, and he's got a stick. Yeah, Fushigis. He's a Fushiger, you know? And
he's a Fushiger.
Yeah, and he's got this stick. And that's kind of it, right? So, you could carry around your stick as the Goblin King and just enthrall people. For spells, I had a few things that would really make the most sense to pick up. Like, bards get spells like Pyrotechnics, Calm Emotions, Charm Person, but also we were talking about Magic Mouth. You get Magic Mouth as this because the labyrinth itself is full of all those, like, weird traps and creatures and puzzles and stuff like that. So you could see, like, a mouth opening up on a brick wall and talking within there. But also, even for, like, a cantrip, the spell Friends is actually kind of broken depending on how you use it. Yeah, I mean, if you're fighting and you use Friends on something that's, like, maybe outside the fight just to sort of rope it in, pretty cool, you know?
And I feel like, too, like, the flavoring behind a lot of the spells where it's, like, maybe not going down the full, like, battle warlock or, like, battle bard route, it does open you up to a lot of other utility where it's, like, yeah, this bard would this bard lock would 100% build this labyrinth, and, like, I can immediately envision, like, David Bowie just being surrounded by, like, a bunch of, like, singing bricks in the wall, like...
Yeah, man. And little goblin dudes.
Oh, yeah.
If you wanted to go into, like, I think bards or warlocks for sure, get a summon spell, but you'd have to go deeper into warlock than level 3 or 4 for that. To get, because they start at, like, 3rd level spell casting for summon creature spells, but if you're ever going to use a summon spell, like, conjuration, summon lesser demons and stuff like that, like, talk to your DM first, because I don't know about you, but I hate these fucking spells. I wish they didn't exist. But, if you went deeper into Warlock, you could get summon lesser demons and then just sort of flavor them. It says that you can get 8 demons of challenge rating 1/4 or lower. Goblins are 1/4 challenge rating. So you could use, that conjure demon spell, conjure lesser demons or summon lesser demons, to get a little posse of goblins to follow you around.
Yeah, you could just, get your little batch of goons.
Yeah, man.
And just be like, this is my goblin squad. They're all demons, they're all devils, but I'm gonna...
Yeah, but they're goblins.
I'm in my goblin squad, yeah. I mean, oh my god, I mean, like, you look at, D&D and, like, how they've, like, slowly, like, implemented, like, the softening of the goblin, where before it was, like, you look at, like, Tolkien, look at, like, Lord of the Rings, and how it's, like, goblins and, like, orcs are, like, these god-awful, like, abominations.
The same as, like, a knight, like, at least as strong as a person. Something to be worried
and it's,
about.
like, just ugly, like, oh my god. And now it's just, like, slowly over the course of, like, different editions of D&D, and with, like, raging amounts of, like, fan art of just, this is my character, and, like, it gets to a point where it's like, I don't really know if we're sticking to the source material anymore, but, like, making a posse of just, like, these hideous, like, very terrifying creatures of, sticks to the lore a little bit more.
Yeah, man. I see what you mean about the softening thing, where it's like, it's gone from being a horrifying monster to, like, that's basically just a green elf,
Yeah. And it's like, even to where it's like, it's a common thing in D&D too. It's like, there was this really good meme that I saw where it's like, make your character ugly or draw 25, and it's just like, yeah, and it's just like, everyone likes to just make their characters hot, and that's just how it is.
Man,
like,
I think it's way better when you're, to each their own. If you're going to have fun doing something a certain way, but I like making characters that are kind of stupid, that are unattractive, that are physically unimposing, and that have backstories more along the lines of, like, recently divorced garbage man has to become an adventurer. Yeah. I think that's way
gotta pay alimony.
Yeah, exactly. He's got alimony to pay, man. Dude's got child support. So I think that's what I like, is just really ridiculous, silly, small things. Other than, I guess, the Big Daddy that I was talking about, which is not small at all. But you got one more.
I do got one more. So this last build that I want to involve is called the Swindler. So while there are a lot of different spells and abilities where it's like, yeah, like you're going to go out and like, you know, be the hero and do all this like grand adventuring, you also have a lot of these spells that are really, really effective at, you know, destroying the real enemy, which is the overwhelming corporate greed that runs everything from behind the scenes.
All right.
Yes. Truly the only real enemy.
The filthy capitalist.
How a lot of this build works is it's about, you know, playing into essentially like market and like sales, but for magic items. There's this one particularly interesting spell in the game called Nihil's Magic Aura. And what it does is, so when you cast the spell, you can choose to basically place some sort of like magical mask over top of an object. Not in a sense where like a seeming or a disguised self, where it changes, you know, how it physically looks, but it's more of like how divination and other sorts of magical sensors will pick it up. So there are two options with this. There's the false aura and then there's the mask. So with the false aura, you can basically take a non-magical object and make it appear magical. And you can even assign a school of magic that will pop up if, you know, this item is under the effect of a detect magic spell. And in addition to this, you can also use something like this mask, which is the second feature of this trait, where you can even give off certain types of creature energy. With like within this, it's saying that, you know, you can take your target and then you can basically assign some sort of like creature type, for example, like, you know, Paladin's Divine Sense. You can change what sort of energy this gives off. It's like, oh, like this gives off like fiend energy or fey energy or like something like that. But the fun part is, due to some kind of loose wording with Nihil's Magic Aura, is with that false identity factor, is it basically lets us bamboozle divination magic. If someone's like, what does this thing do?
Yeah. So it just lets you convince people that one thing is a completely different thing.
Yeah. So, like, let's say, for instance, you know, some like a band of adventurers come up and like, oh, like we're looking for magic items, and you literally just go in and you're like, oh, I have all of these magic items for you, and people are like, oh my god, these are like legendary great items. Where did you find all of these treasures? And it's like, yeah, you know.
You could combine it with like distort value.
Oh, yeah.
To make things even more valuable.
Yeah, like that was a big thing that I was thinking of too, where it's like you can then take distort value as a spell, where it's like, you know, these items that look, maybe some of them look a little more mundane, you can use distort value and make them even, you know, more precious and more valuable. On top of that too, you also have a lot of fun shenanigans that you can use with things like hallucinatory terrain. Let's say, for instance, you're running around, you're like, hey, I want to sell, you know, I want to deal in, you know, some property scams with my swindler build. You can literally go out to just like a random patch and just start spamming hallucinatory terrains.
Nice.
And then just bring people there and be like, yeah, like this is the deed I have to this.
Yeah, this scenic, perfect, definitely not Shrek swamp piece of property.
You can do the same thing too with a lot of other types of illusions, like you've got major image, you've got programmed illusion, and all of these are things that you can quickly and very easily get access to with Wizard. Specifically too, you also have that fun little aspect of Illusion Wizard with their malleable illusions trait that lets you bend the illusions after you cast them on a specific item.
That's really funny. So you're basically like a mix of Snake Oil Salesman and George C. Parker trying to sell the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yes.
Like, yeah, this is my Clark Stanley Parker build. I'm gonna rip everybody in the Forgotten Realms off.
Mm-hmm. And the best part is, it's almost like it's encouraged in this case, because it's like, yeah, I mean, Nystul's Magic Aura really seals the deal with this spell. It's a lot of, I mean, personally, I know, like, I talk a lot about utility spells, but they really do, like, when their only limit is your creativity, you can get away with a lot of stuff if the DM is willing to clown around with it.
Yeah, utility spells are super fun. A lot of them are way more fun than a lot of like the, where if a build's going for as many damage dealing options as possible. I think it's better to go for as many shenanigans causing spells as possible.
Yeah, shenanigans are a lot of fun. Even too.
I really like this capitalist build. This is really funny to me. I like the idea of running a real estate scale. You're selling timeshares in favor.
Oh, let me tell you, it gets so much worse. So anyways, so let's say, for instance, you need some really fancy items that you want to sell to people, or just like a really elaborate gemstone that you want to create, or armor, or just some sort of item. Creation is a spell. And what this does is it basically allows you to create any sort of object or thing that you can visualize being made from a certain type of material. And depending on what material it's made from, you can make it last for a certain period of time. So basically the harder and the rarer the material is to get normally, the shorter it stays for. However, stones and crystals have a shelf life of 12 hours. But still, you're at like a fair, you're going to a bazaar or something, you pop up creation, and you're like, oh, this is the looking glass of
right
whoever.
This is Snow White, the looking glass from Snow White. Okay, this is the mirror that will tell you if you're hot or not.
I mean, that's easy to duplicate just with like a magic mouth, though. That's easy.
There you go.
Yeah, so using creation, you can craft these little items together and be like, oh yeah, like, here, take this, and then it just vanishes after a certain period of time. By that point, you're probably long gone.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways that you can bamboozle, mislead, and befuddle all kinds of people.
That's really funny. You could do the charlatan background. It gives you like forgery kits and a fake personality, a second identity or whatever.
Yeah, and even then too, it's like, hey, you really want to come through with like that fake land deed? It's like, here you go. This is like signed from the king himself.
Yeah, exactly. The Lord of Neverwinter signed this deed. You can see right here it says Lord of Neverwinter. That's his name.
He just pulls up like with the Ron Swanson. It's just like, don't worry, I have a permit. And then it's just like a piece of paper that says, I do what I want.
I do what I want, yeah.
This is my deed to the town. I own this.
Yeah. You need a very good intimidation roll for that one.
They're just staring you dead in the eyes, just like, I live here.
Yeah, I do what I want. That's fantastic. All right, I think that's all we got.
I do think that is for this round of videos and building. So anyways, first of all, I want to thank you for sticking through this video the entire way. If you're listening to this, I know that this is much longer than a lot of the typical content that I usually make. About, 45 minutes is quite a hefty video. So once again, I appreciate you being here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I do invite you to check out ItsNket's part as well when that drops too. And if you enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe for even more D&D and hopefully more collaboration content. And in the meantime, keep smiling, keep scheming, and I'll see all of you next time.